So, greetings, friends and followers. This is Nurses Talking. I am Dale Barzy. As always, if you like what you see and hear, subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Here on Nurses Talking, we speak to nurses anywhere in the world and at any stage in their nursing journey. And today it is my great pleasure to welcome Tihana Gaspert. Tihana comes to us out of Croatia, and she is a hematology nurse. She's a PhD candidate. She says she's an ESNO junior policy officer, and ESNO is European Specialist Nurse Organization, yes?
Yes.
And she is a teaching assistant at the University of Rijeka, and she's a book blogger.
Yes.
So thank you so very much for joining me, Tiana.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for inviting me.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. So firstly, why are you nurse? What brought you to nursing?
Well, it took me a lot of years to confess actually to myself that I never wanted to be a nurse. When I finished high school, I applied to medical school and I didn't get into medical school. And I decided to get into nursing school with determination that I will take my exams again, but that never happened. I never took new exams to try for medical school. So, yeah, I never wanted to be a nurse, but I became one, and I'm very proud of that. And I literally discovered a whole new world with it.
But what challenged you? Because you went into nursing not wanting to. So it's kind of like kicking and screaming. So what challenged you?
Well, at first, I think that I was afraid to take medical exams again and maybe take an easier path to nursing school. But eventually, it showed me how much opportunities there is. I grew up with the perception that a nurse is a person who strictly has to be by the bedside, and that is basically the only job that she could ever have and take, and that is what she learned. But once I got into the nursing school, there is so much opportunities, so much things that you learn, and you basically discover that there are many, many opportunities in which nurse can be and
Yeah,
what a nurse can do beside the
yeah,
bed. Yeah.
yeah. Nurses are nurses, and the bedside is just one facet of it. It's just one facet of it. So now you are a hematology nurse. So I have two questions about that. First of all, what other areas did you work, and why hematology?
I worked in oncology,
Hmm.
took a short detour into nursing home, and now I'm in hematology. Throughout my education, what I found most appealing was oncology and psychiatry, actually. The main reason was that you get that continuity of work with patients. And that is why those areas were so much appealing to me. The rest of them were not very much. I was very, very lucky when I got my first job because in Croatia we don't have specializations. We are all general nurses,
Okay.
and you apply to a job in hospital as a nurse. Um, you get assigned to whatever ward needs nurse.
Hmm.
And I got asked where I wanted to go, and I replied oncology or psychiatry. And I remember that head nurse was very surprised because they didn't get that answer at all, which was for me very, very, very good. I am very involved with oncology patients, and my PhD is about oncology. Um, Last year, I took a short detour to nursing home to become a head nurse, but
Mm.
something that didn't resonate with me or my area of expertise,
Yeah.
and wanted to search something that is similar to oncology, but expanding my knowledge, and hematology was next best thing.
So you took a roundabout route to hematology, yeah? Right. So what do you think? Well, now that you are at the hematology space, is that where you think you'd like to stay?
I think that it's too early to say, but
Uh-huh.
I'm very surprised by the area because, well, education in Croatia for nurses is a little bit complicated. And for example, when I was in nursing school, we didn't learn anything about oncology or anything about hematology or operating room, emergency room, intensive care units. So those are places that that you get to know once you get the job there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
For me personally, I knew something about hematology. I had a vague idea what it is about, but now that I'm into the field, I feel very, very inspired by it. And I see the broadness of it that maybe oncology doesn't have.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Gotcha. I understand that. I understand that. What do you think you would like to see change about nursing in Croatia, either in terms of the way nurses are educated or what their scope of practice is like? What do you think you'd like to see change?
Well, I would like to see the change in profession as itself. Firstly, maybe on the international level, I would like to see nurses to be a similar profession, no matter in one country do you work, because nurses in America, in Ireland, in United States, those are nurses who have the most autonomy and whose area of expertise is very much broadened.
Mm,
In the rest of the world, it's very different. And the term nurse means something different in every country. In Croatia, we're still, I would say, far behind from the Europe and the rest of the world because I don't have autonomy. Um, I'm not allowed to prescribe. I am not allowed to give out informations to patients. That is something that doctors do. Um, we are still very much relying on doctors and their expertise, of course, but we don't have autonomy yet as a profession. And I would like to see that changing. I would like to have more autonomy. I would like that my area of expertise being broadened.
I get that. I get that. And you know what I am seeing is that over the last 10 to 15 years or so, there has been literally an explosion of technology within the healthcare field. Are you seeing the same thing?
Yes, I do. I see it. We have an information system where we put information about the patients inside the, computer system or
Mhm.
whatever. But I didn't see the boom yet in Croatia. I see the potentials of technology. There are many, but I think that we still have to be careful because um, being a nurse for me is to care, to be for the patient and with the patient. And yes, technology can um, relieve us in many ways, but I think that we must use that technology to get us through administrative work, but still save the majority of our time for the patients.
For the patients, yes, for the patients. One of the things that we are complaining a lot about here, or one of the complaints I hear a lot, is shortage of staff.
Yeah.
Are you experiencing that?
Yes. Um, and I see that we are kind of used to that. Uh,
Mm,
we are used to working for two or three people. Um, And sometimes there are occasions when there is enough staff and then we don't know what to do with enough staff. And
Mhm.
there is that feeling that there is then too much of us, because of the pace that we are used to work with.
Yeah.
I have to say that I don't agree with working for 2 or 3 people at the same time. Maybe it is a solution for one shift or a week, but that is a situation that has been going on for years. And it's not beneficial, not for nurses, not for doctors, not for patients. It's not beneficial to anyone. The mistakes are happening very much, and we find, excuses for those mistakes. But I think that we have to own our profession, own our words,
Yes.
and slow down. We have to be responsible for our own doing, and we are responsible for our profession, and we are responsible for the patients. And if we are taking so much workload, we are going to make mistakes. They are going to happen no matter what. And then we have problems.
Then we have problems. Then we have problems. We have bad outcomes for the whole situation, the patient, the nurse, the whole situation. And you mentioned something um very poignant, is that it is our responsibility to take responsibility for it. Because as long as we work short, we will continue to work short, because the powers that be say, well, you did it yesterday, so why can't you do it today or next week?
When you take so much workload, there is no space for expanding your profession and expanding your competencies because you are doing the work of someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
You're proving that you can do it,
Yeah,
you can take that workload, and nobody then is going to give you an opportunity to expand your knowledge, to expand your profession. There will be no space to go on an education to, learn new competencies because you will have to be at work.
exactly. So what would you say, as far as your career has gone, what would you say is the best advice you have received?
Best advice that I received. Don't look to others.
Mm,
Don't look to others and double check yourself always.
every time.
Every,
Mhm.
because no matter how secure are you in your skills, in your knowledge, you're working with people, and if you make that mistake, it's not like something that you do on a paper and that you take out a new piece of paper and delete it
Yeah,
and think. What you do can have large consequences.
yeah,
So I would suggest double check yourself every time and don't listen to others. Be confident about yourself.
yeah, 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 yeah. Um, that thing inside you that says, this is what you need to do. You need to check. Go back and check. Just listen to that little voice. Yes. Um, because 9 out of 10 times that little voice is right.
Yes, it is.
That little voice is right. So, so we talk a lot about, again, nurses leaving the profession because of burnout, physical, mental, emotional burnout. And we're talking a lot these days about caring for ourselves. You know, as a young nurse myself, that was not something that was ever mentioned anywhere. And those two words, I think, self and care, probably didn't even go together. But what do you do to care for you?
Um, I tend to, as I said, I tend to double check myself. And then I try not to, well, My work today is a little bit different than when I started. I now work in day hospital, which 9 out of 10 times means that I don't work overtime. But when I work in shifts, I work a lot of hours overtime. I know that it's beneficial for the salary, for example, but I think at this point of my life, I wouldn't take any overtime, no matter the salary, because I am getting older. I still am very young, but as the time goes, I'm not going to be any younger. It takes time to recover from either a day shift or night shift.
Yeah.
Sometimes because of the nursing shortage, there's not enough time to rest.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would definitely not take overtime. Um, then I try to, when I get back from work, I try to be present at home, not
Hmm.
not worrying about what happened at work, because most of the time nothing special happened that could impact my life afterwards. And, usually, yes, I do think about patients and about their stories, but that is not something that overwhelms me. But, something about maybe I do not tend to think about, my colleagues or administration or, unfairness of the system and salaries and stuff like that. I just try to be present once I get home and to really take that time for rest that
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah. And that I have to say that that's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. Actually, you have to make an effort. You have to actually put it into place that when I leave. And there has to be a mechanism in your head to shut it off because otherwise it follows you home. You also mentioned about not taking overtime regardless of the salary. And that is one of the things about nursing is that if you wanted to, if I wanted to, I could work 365 days a year because the opportunity to work 365 days a year is there. The downside of that is that when you do that, you in your head now, you put yourself at a different standard of living. And so now you've put yourself on a treadmill where you now have to do that extra in order to maintain that standard of living. And I don't know how that's sustainable.
yeah, I know it's hard once you get used to a certain amount of salary to
Yeah.
go to less amount, and it's hard. But then again, um, if you want to earn extra money without feeling so exhausted, too much under pressure, there is always opportunity to start something on your own along the work that you have to bring an extra income or something like that.
Um,
Um, in Croatia, it's not possible to work 365 days per year because, yeah, we can have, I think, up to 200 hours overtime per year. I would choose, to have more time. That can mean a less salary, but then again, I can come up with something like small business. As you said, I am a book blogger. I spend my times in reviewing books, getting books, um, you know, being partnership with publishing
yeah.
houses, and that is something that brings me joy, and it does bring me a little bit of income, which is for me personally great, and I don't feel burned out.
You don't feel burned out. And and you're using a different part of your brain. You're you put your interests in a different kind of stimulation. So that's cool. That's really cool. If you, I have been collecting words. I've been asking people, if you could tell me in one word what you see as the most essential quality of a nurse, what would that word be?
Caring.
Caring?
Caring, maybe it is something that is at the top of my mind because my PhD is revolving around Gene Watson's theory of human caring, and that is something that I read about every day. So that's the reason, but the more I read to it, the more I realize that for me it's an essential. You can have the skills, you can have the knowledge, you can have everything. But if you don't truly care for the patient or the job that you're doing, I've seen that it's just not good.
There is no way that you can do it well. You
Yes.
can carry out the task. You
Yes.
can carry out the task, but um, carrying out the task is not all there is.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So that's huge. Caring is a big one. I have to ask you one more thing I want to know. You're a police policy officer,
Yes.
the European Specialist Nurses Organization. What does that mean?
Well, it's actually a new role inside the organization. But what that gives me is an opportunity to expand my profession actually, because there are many policy officer in a lot of organization, and usually they are not of the profession
Yeah,
that inside the organization, no matter what is the nurses organization or doctors or
yeah,
whatever. And they gave out opportunities to nurses to be policy officer, to get to know the organization from the inside, to
hmm,
policy, and to be part of the event that basically creates nursing future in Europe.
yeah,
And for me, that really much opened a door again for new opportunities and to new ways to expand my career and to show other nurses what again the profession can be and what
yeah,
are the opportunities. Because for example, next week we do have a meeting with politicians in Brussels where we're going to talk about the importance of nurses and why it's important to support them. And I think that, if you want to talk about that, you need nurses to talk about that. You
yes,
don't
indeed.
you don't need a policy officer who is economist or something like that to talk about the nurses, because yes, they can do it, but if you didn't experience it, you are not going to send the right message.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and that is really huge, and I'm glad that you talked about it like that because very often, for too long, actually, we have let non-nurses speak for us
Yes.
and make decisions that affect us. Um, in in everything from what we earn to how many patients we have to how we work. And so it's high time that we spoke up and made our voices heard and be intentional about making people understand who we are and what we do because it's our fault actually if we don't do that.
Yes, I completely agree. My colleague actually said we had a debate this summer in our PhD school, and he said a very good sentence about nurses. He said, if we are not on in the table or on the table, we are on the menu, and we need to learn how to
Yeah,
talk about ourselves and how to fight for us, because yeah, it's always nice if you have some support from others from the
yeah,
outside, but it's not good if you rely on somebody else to give you the credit that you know that you deserve.
Yeah. Exactly, exactly. And the other thing with that is that as long as you're relying on somebody else to give you the credit, it means that you don't really know your own value. And if you don't know it, then you cannot possibly articulate it.
I completely agree.
So, yeah. Tiana, this has been a great conversation. Thank you. Any last words you'd like to leave us with?
Um, I didn't expect last words.
That's okay.
I would strongly suggest for any nurse in the world to be brave and to be rebellious in some kind of way, because there are many paths that you can take, many opportunities that you can take, and don't let anyone tell you what is your profession about and what are your limits.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that word that you just used, rebellious. Be rebellious. Thank you, Tihana. It's been great.
Thank you so much.